Joining me now is Trevor Loudon, expert on communism. And also with us is Daniel Greenfield, as well as Annie Cyrus. Daniel Greenfield, of course, is a syndicated columnist. He's with frontpagemag.com. He's one of my Jewish friends, and I would like to ask him right off the bat tonight, Daniel, the Christians and the Jews had better wake up in America, because the Islamists like to say that they're coming after the Saturday people, then they're coming after the Sunday people. And I don't know. This is not good tonight. The first ever statewide elected Islamist, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, and now Mamdani, Mayor, Marxist Islamist Mayor of New York, the biggest city in America. What do you make of all this tonight as an expert on Islam and Marxism?
Well, they've already started coming for the Sunday people. If you've seen events in Dearborn, and if you've seen a Christian man being told that he does not belong in what is now a Muslim city. Of course, that's the treatment that is coming in New York City already. Mamdani has made history in a number of ways. One of those is that he's the first mayor elected without Jewish support. About 60% of the Jewish vote went to Cuomo, who, as flawed and as bad as he was, is still considered a better alternative to Mamdani. But we also saw polls in which about 28% of Mamdani was only winning about 28% of Protestant, 32% or so of Catholics. So Mamdani has won over the opposition of Christians and Jews in New York City. The only group he was winning with, the only religious group he was winning with, was the other group, which is presumably Muslims. So this is a situation where you have Marxists and Muslims electing a mayor to control New York City. So that's certainly historic in a worst possible way.
What do you make of the terror plot we're being told about in Dearborn, Michigan? Apparently, these guys were going to go after an LGBTQ gay bar. Do you believe this? Do you believe it's a legitimate case? Has it been made into more than it really was? I hate we have to ask that, but who trusts this government, what they put out? But if it is true, you write an article about how it's kind of interesting that the media is completely silent that the Islamists were going after the LGBTQ. How is this going to go in these states that elect these mayors and elected officials that are Muslims? How's it going to go for the LGBTQ community? We talked about Jews and Christians. What about the LGBTQ community?
Oh, in Iran and Egypt, you had an alliance between the Marxists, the leftists, and the Islamists. And the alliance ended in exactly the way you expect, with the Islamists eating up the leftists. We actually are seeing this play out already in America, in Hamtramck, which is one of the first Muslim-controlled cities in America. They allied with the left to take over the city. And of course, the moment they took over, they banned pride flags. And this video of this leftist gay councilwoman who was very, very angry about it because, she helped them take over, and now they just stabbed them in the back. But it's the story of the scorpion over and over again. So at some point, the various leftist activists, the LGBTQs who are allying with Islam, the queers for Palestine, all these people are going to find out that when you give the scorpion a ride, it's going to end with you sinking into the river.
Why did you say Mamdani's campaign was made in Pakistan?
Well, there's now actually information coming out that a lot of these social media clout, a lot of the promotion, you were just seeing him everywhere, was faked. It was backed by so-called bot farms operating out of Pakistan, India, those, his homeland, really, which is not Uganda. It's the Indian Muslim territories. They were the ones who were out there spreading his videos, spreading his message, promoting it, liking it, doing all the stuff to make him seem very, very popular. The reality was, yes, he's won this an election where in the city where people would vote for Hitler if he ran in the Democratic plank. But in the original primary, where he secured the Democratic nomination, he only got about 5% of the vote from New Yorkers. Most people just did not bother to vote. I think we're seeing below average turnout even in the mayoral election.
Annie, jump in here, will you?
Of course. Well, let me, following up with the question Brandon had, what are the chances, because I've seen it, but I don't know the numbers. What are the chances a lot of Christians are voting for these Muslims because they like the stabbing in the back, but not in a form of a stabbing in the back? They're desperate because their own candidate is not banning the LGBTQ banner and flag in schools and story times. Are they?
Well, And there are people who wanted to go that kind of route. I don't think it's so much happening in New York City, but in places like, part of the debate we're having about anti-Semitism is you have these people who are now insisting that on the right that they should ally with Islam, that they should have their own version of Islam. But just like leftists allying with Islam, it's going to end one way, which again is not any kind of enduring alliance. It's them being eaten by the same monster that they're allying with.
But that's what I'm trying to figure out here as I try to stay calm with what's happening tonight. But I know a lot of Democrats are involved, voters. I know a lot of Muslims are involved, but I also think a lot of Republicans, one way or another, either tired of their own candidates not delivering, wanting to see a dramatic change, but hiding behind, oh, it was a Muslim who did it. I think Republicans are contributing to this green wave as well.
Oh.
The Muslim Brotherhood certainly has tried infiltrating the Republican Party. When we look at people like Tucker Carlson who are promoting Sharia law, who are sending this message that we need to ally with Islam, again, I think these people are playing a very, very dangerous game, and it's only going to end one way. Islam has always spread by dividing and conquering, whether it was historically with the conflict between the Byzantine Empire and Persia, or in modern times where they're exploiting our political differences in Europe and America. But they're exploiting that entirely to divide and conquer us. They have no allegiance to either side. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats. They're not on the left. They're not on the right. People are calling Mamdani a communist. Yes, Mamdani says communist things. He's actually a rich kid. His real allegiance is to Islam, and people need to remember that.
Let me bring in real quick Trevor Loudon. Isn't this interesting, Trevor, that Annie is talking about the fact that you have maybe some Republicans crossing over and voting for Islam, as some Republicans are now, making Islam, more acceptable. I think people like Tucker Carlson interviewing people that are Hamas. I think Tucker said himself, Hamas, they're just a political organization, aren't they? Maybe we can find that clip, Logan. But then again, let's talk about the evangelicals. We had James White doing an interfaith dialogue with Yasser Qadi, a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending, jihadi-preaching imam. And when Usama and I and Sharam and others brought it out, we got attacked by even so-called evangelicals, including Bible ministry, so-called. How dare we do that? So I think the political side has helped prepare a way for Republicans to vote for Muslim candidates, Islamic candidates. I think there's those within obviously the mainline liberal churches, but even the Protestant churches that have made a way for that. What say you, Trevor?
Well, I think there's two aspects to this. Tucker Carlson is not a conservative.
Right.
He is a left-wing social conservative, basically a semi-fascist. That's what Tucker Carlson is. And so he is the Russians and the Iranians are trying to neutralize American conservatives, split American conservatives, and push this as allied with Islamic narrative on them. On the other side, you have got some evangelical Christians who are just so naive, it's just unbelievable. Think that, the Muslims, they have conservative social values. They don't like the LGBTQ stuff. They're sort of very socially conservative. We can ally with these people. Well, you got to have a lot more in common than that to form a real strategic alliance. And I think Daniel is perfectly correct that will end in tragedy. That will end in by allowing the Muslims into the Republican Party, that can only weaken the Republican Party and benefit the left. That's all it can do. There is the only slight pushback I'd have on what Daniel said is that I think Mamdani is a communist first and a Muslim second. But either way, he is a communist. He is absolutely a communist. His father was the founder of the Uganda-North Korea Friendship Society. This goes way back. Like Nihad Awad was a communist before he was a Muslim, before he was a political Muslim. And this is a bit of a dispute I have with some of my friends in this area. I think that Many of the Islamic radicals that we see are actually more communist than Muslim, but overall, Islam is a religion that has not been built by proselytization. It's been built by conquest, either demographically or militarily, and they will continue to do that. You know, Muslims are killing people in Nigeria and other places right now because they can. If they can do it in America, they will do it here too.
Let's take a look at this, Annie. Look at this. We have Minneapolis mayor right now with 7% of the vote in thus far. The Omar is at 28.5. The current mayor of Minneapolis, Frey, is at 38%. So again, I don't know what precincts are going. We got a three-way race here. So again, this may make a difference with a three-way race.
Yes, and when 5% was in, Fatah was actually first. He was ahead. So considering how many are coming in, I still think Fatah stands a very strong chance of winning this. And I want to, if I could just, one thing, we can definitely safely call New York City. It's done. He took it. Mamdani is in. But I want to just mention something, Trevor, when you said, Mamdani is a communist first, Islamist second, or when Daniel says Islamist first, communist. Is there really much of a difference between a Muslim and a communist?
Not a lot. It's a little bit academic in some ways, but they are allied at this point in time against the Western nations. They may fall out and fight each other sometime in the future, but I'll just say to that, the communists have got a lot more nukes than the Muslims.
Yes, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'll go back to there is a green wave, and though we do need to be very careful and very emphasized in the communist and the socialist movement, but then in the battle, Muslims always won. When it comes to red-green, green always conquered when red helped green become majority and take power. So maybe I'm just biased, maybe it's personal, but the fact that the attention, especially on Mamdani, is more like, for example, the government comes and like, if Mamdani wins, we do this and that because he's a socialist, and they don't even touch the Muslim part of it because they're okay with the rest of the Muslims who are winning tonight or who are running for 2026. Or Brandon was just asking Roger Stone about what 2028, and as Roger said rightfully too early, but I have a suggestion. Why don't we go to Keith Allison for a candidate for 2028? That could be your candidate for Democrats. I know everybody's focusing on Gavin Newsom, but I have a feeling Keith Allison is going to pop up and be the candidate for 2028 to be the official Muslim president. The way we're going, go ahead.
No, he may try, but I think he'd have no chance. But he may try, But we are seeing a huge increase in Muslim candidates standing around the country. A few on the Republican ticket, but mostly on the Democrat ticket. And the Democrat ones are always being aided by the left. Wherever you look in Delaware or Detroit or Texas, the left is backing these people almost universally.
Let me ask you, Daniel, where are we at? I mean, a year from now, 2 years from now, how are we going to have a coalition of America First, constitutionalist patriots when we have people that have been pretty big figures in the movement? Well, like Tucker Carlson saying, well, Hamas, isn't that just a political organization? Watch this clip.
But you should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law. Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this with a rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't.
Boy, I hope we don't wind up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, Sharia law is obviously just a punchline. I don't know that too many people actually believe in the reality of that. And I mean, sure, like I said, you know,
no one can plausibly claim that a Christian family are in Hamas. Okay, so like, tell me, you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda. So it can't also be true that
it's just a political organization. And Sharia, well, God forbid we ever end up with Sharia and you can leave your keys in your sports car, Lamborghini. Daniel, how are we going to have a coalition to take on the Marxists and the Islamists when this is how people with millions of followers like Tucker are talking and now platforming, Nick Fuentes, who's praising Stalin and Hitler and talking about the minorities, blacks, in ways this week that I just can't believe that people talk that way and then get on Tucker's show or any other show for that matter. I said to Logan this today, I said, the left said that the MAGA crowd they're a bunch of neo-Nazis and they're a bunch of fascists. Well, we know that the Socialist Workers' Party, the Nazi Party, was the Socialist Workers' Party. We know it was a fascist party, big government, big business merging together, burning books, etc., shutting down churches or pulling out, cracking down on the churches big time. Of course, many of them dissolved their denominations, united under the Reich bishop handpicked by Adolf Hitler. But the left was saying, MAGA, they're neo-Nazis, they're fascists. Well, wow. Now we actually have people that are fascists and neo-Nazis getting interviews and being promoted. They're falling right into the narrative. This cannot be happening on its own. Someone has to be setting the MAGA movement up or being paid to do this. Are these people this stupid to do this on their own? Daniel?
No, we've seen this before. We've seen this with how they wrecked the Tea Party movement. It's now happening with MAGA over again. And Tucker's favorite guests are not conservatives. They're people like Glenn Greenwald, a gay Brazilian socialist. I love how Tucker has Glenn Greenwald on all the time, and now he's opposing Trump taking on the cartels because that's a global homo conspiracy. And his other favorite guests are somebody like Jeff Sachs, a UN official funded by George Soros. These people are not fighting the left. I call them the anti-American right. They're there to prop up the Marxists and the Islamists, and the right part is a highly theoretical one. So these people are here to destroy MAGA. We've seen text messages from Tucker talking about how much he hates Trump, how much he hates this movement. We just have to get wise to the fact that we have enemies within, that they are out there to bring us down, and that they are allied with Islamists and the Marxists, and that unless we actually stand up to them instead of pretending that these people are on our side, we are going to lose.
You have an article this week that the media complains that Trump officials are staying at military bases to avoid being murdered. How long before we see more political assassinations of people who are speaking out against Islam, Marxism, these kind of things? Now elected officials have to stay on military bases.
It's an absolutely insane situation, backed by the fact that the Biden administration unleashed this. The Biden administration signed off on so-called protests outside the homes of Supreme Court justices to terrorize them. This is very much on the former Attorney General Garland. So they normalize this. Now they're normalizing a new level of violence targeting ICE, targeting any officials involved in deportations of illegal aliens. Again, we're going to insurrection and we're going past insurrection. And of course, we're going to have more political assassinations. We've had a number of plots that were just narrowly averted, including the Justice Kavanaugh assassination. We had the assassination attempt on Governor Josh Shapiro. In Pennsylvania, we're going to have more and more violence. And that's something pretty much everybody agrees. We actually have a recent poll. A majority of Republicans and Democrats say they expect the assassination of a top political official within the next few years. So we are going there. And this is part of the bigger picture. We're going toward a civil war. We're walking down, one step, two steps, three steps, and at that point we actually will end up in a civil war.
Do you have a time frame on that?
It depends on how many of those moves actually get made, how quickly they get made. For example, if the Democrats come back to power in 2028, not at all impossible. They have a majority. They actually move ahead with the plans they discussed before to make Puerto Rico and D.C. into states, to rig the Supreme Court. At that point, we are in Civil War territory. Some of the redistricting we're seeing nationwide, that could very well take us into Civil War territory. The increasing insurrectionist pushes in states and cities where they're actively getting the police to target ICE, and they're encouraging the police to start arresting or impeding ICE personnel. You know, you have a firefight between city, state, and federal law enforcement personnel that is literally Civil War territory.
We did actually have a video clip earlier today, if I can find it real quick, of Eric Holder. Eric Holder was talking about the fact that if they win, we have got to do something about the Supreme Court. So this is already being open. Of course, they've been talking about that, but they're getting more and more aggressive about reforming the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the one thing that's going to come out of this is the Overton window has been opened wide open, and people love a lot of the things that President Trump did. But remember, a lot of those are executive orders. They can be and will be brushed aside the moment that a Democrat takes power. Gavin Newsom or AOC takes office in 2028. Do not think this cannot happen. Look at the election results tonight. If the economy is bad, the Democrat is going to win. And at that point, they're going to do all the stuff that Biden was doing. They're going to double down on it. The stuff we're seeing come out in Arctic frost, the surveillance of the political opponents, they're going to double, triple down on that. We're going to see something far worse than we saw under Biden, which was already worse than we're seeing under Obama. So we are dancing very close to the edge of the abyss here.
Here's Eric Holder.
The point that you make there is an extremely important one. The courts have generally held. If you look at what's happening at the district court level, at the Court of Appeals level, doesn't matter who the president was who appointed the judge. The judges have ruled, I think, courageously and correctly. It's only when you get to the Supreme Court that you see these problems start to arise, and it's the use of this overuse of the shadow docket. By taking these cases and essentially deciding them without hearing any oral argument, without any adequate briefing, deciding these really important matters in that way challenges the legitimacy of the court and does an untold amount of damage to the legal fabric of this nation. I think, the reality is, and it pains me to say this, I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. And it's something that has to be, I think, a part of the national conversation in 26 and in 28. What are we going to do about the Supreme Court? And I think that we have to think about, again, talking about the acquisition and the use of power. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, and I think the possibility of that is pretty good, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Term limits, I think, at a minimum, potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered. We cannot leave in place without a discussion, at least, and I think without substantive reforms being put in place, this Supreme Court as it is presently constituted.
Trevor Loudon, before we let you guys go, you want to talk about what we just heard from not only Holder here, former Attorney General under Obama, but what Daniel Greenfield was saying, that we are moving towards civil war, that we are dancing on the edge.
Well, we need to understand this has been a long-term program by the Russians and the Iranians to get inside the American right. Tucker is a pro-Russian guy. He's a pro-Hamas guy. His goal is to divide the right, and we should treat him like we treated David Duke in the 90s when he tried to infiltrate the Republican Party. The Republican Party was very strongly against Duke, a KKK leader who tried to become a Republican, and they threw him out of the party, as they should have. The same thing needs to happen to Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and people like this, and the disgraceful man from the Heritage Foundation who excused Tucker Carlson's behavior. So we need to understand that unless the Republican Party returns to its conservative values and absolutely stands against this kind of thing, the split is going to be enduring and serious, and the Democrats will retake the House.
Well, in fact,
we need to confront this now.
To that end, the poly markets are saying tonight that there is now a 70% chance that the Dems take the House a year from tonight. I know it's, again, a long way away, as Roger Stone just said, but 70% chance the Dems take the House based on tonight's elections, according to Polymarket.
Yeah, exactly. We cannot take that for granted at all. And Daniel is exactly right. What we will see under the next Democrat president will be way worse than Biden. And Biden was way worse than Obama. We are in a revolutionary situation. The Democratic Party now is Marxist, and they are aiming for a Czechoslovakia 1948 crackdown on their enemies, conservatives, Christians, whatever, to establish effectively a one-party state. They will legalize all the illegal immigrants that still remain in the country and give them voting rights. They will they'll pack the Supreme Court. They will make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states. So they have 4 more left-wing senators. Their goal is a one-party state in America, and we cannot sugarcoat that. That's what we're heading for.
And
it's
Trevor,
so important we heal the divisions in the Republican Party now, confront them now.
And if they get digital IDs, okay, if they're able to flip all this on, turn all this on, and move us from the system they're in now, which is collapsing, and China and Russia are dumping the dollar. I mean, they're basically done with it now, according to the surveys I'm reading. They're going to have to go to a new system. The debt, we're at the end of this debt cycle. They got to go to something new. They add digital IDs, social credit scores. Can you imagine you, Trevor, me, Annie, Daniel Greenfield, the rest of the folks in the audience tonight trying to conduct our life and run our organizations or businesses with social credit scores and what we saw under Biden with what they were saying about us, domestic terrorist, that we need to be deplatformed, shadow banned, blocked. I mean, can you, prosecuting a guy for a meme, right? Can you imagine the tyranny they can bring down on top of us, Trevor, with that kind of system?
Look, seriously, these people are as serious as Hugo Chavez. They're given another term of office, and the power that they will have, and they do all those things, they will be coming after us like you wouldn't believe. No, they are not going to ever allow another Trump or anyone else to come along. This will be full-on socialism in the United States, and the American Republic will be over. We cannot think we're going to fight back 4 years later or anything like this.
Won't be anything like
that is why winning the next 2 elections is, like we say this every time, that this is elections the most important. Well, it gets more important every time because the Democrats only have to win once. We have to win every time.
Mm-hmm. Closing comment from you.
Until we have enough reforms underway to defund them and get rid of their power. But right now we're hanging on by our fingernails.
Closing comment from you, Daniel.
Well, we are in a pretty dark and grave situation, but we have to remember the bigger picture, which is that there is a core patriotic America here. So in the way when we are winning, when things look good, that fades back. People just feel like, it's Trump is in charge. We can just sit back and let it happen. When we get a wake-up call like this, I think it's really important that we get wake-up calls like this. People start feeling energized. People start feeling, get the fight energy. We got the fight energy when President Trump was nearly murdered.
Absolutely.
We are tasting some of this now, and we really need to get that shock to the system now before 2026, because, yes, the Democrats stand a very good chance of taking the House as things are right now. We need to stop being complacent. We need to stop just celebrating social media memes. We need to realize that much of the country is not happy with the situation. The economy is still challenging. They're not seeing a lot of the promises being delivered. And if that does not change, they are going to vote for our enemies. They're going to vote for Marxists. They're going to vote for Islamists. They're going to vote for the destruction of this country, because the bottom line is what most people care about is their pocketbook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of great stuff by Daniel Greenfield, including domestic enemies you see over his shoulder. His website is danielgreenfield.org, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Daniel?
Yes.
danielgreenfield.org. He's also over at frontpagemag.com. He's part of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Trevor is at trevorloudon.com, trevorloudon.com. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thank you.